Hey everybody! Before we start this episode, we just wanted to take a quick moment to pay tribute to a man who passed away very recently in the hockey world. A kid by the name of Matiss Kivlenieks, as you might have heard, Columbus Blue Jackets prospect goalie. He passed away at the age of 24 in just a tragic accident in Michigan over the last weekend. He was born. It's a really sad. It was really sad seeing that news come in on Monday morning. It was just an absolutely tragic thing. I'm not going to get into what it is. I'm sure you can go because it's still ongoing. Like what happened exactly is still a little bit is still up in the air because investigations are still going on and everything. Basically just related mostly to an incident involving fireworks at a 4th of July celebration that Kivlenieks happened to be attending. And yeah, it's heartbreaking when anybody passes away. But when somebody passes away at such a young age and, same age as me, really, and with so much potential, a lot of whole future look forward to. It's heartbreaking. Your heart goes out to the family and everything. I mean, this is a kid, he was born in Riga. He was the fifth Latvian goaltender to ever play in the NHL, following some people like former Canucks like Artur Zerbe, Peter Skudra. You have guys like Kristers Gudlevskins and his own teammate Elvis Merzlikins, who apparently he was living with during the summer. Him and Merzlikins and his wife, Merzlikins referred to him as his little brother. And you feel so bad for his teammates, anybody who had any sort of connection to the Blue Jackets organization and had a chance to interact with him. Apparently he was just a very nice kid. He was very close to becoming a full-time NHL goaltender. It wasn't that far off for him. He won his first game in the NHL a couple of years ago against the Rangers in Madison Square Garden. That'll forever be his biggest legacy in the NHL, is playing in the world's largest and the world's most famous arena and winning in his debut is incredible. And just recently he had led Latvia to a shutout victory over Canada in his hometown at the World Championships, which was stunning, a stunning upset that had mostly to do with him and just how incredibly he had been in net. He had so much to look forward to. And yeah, our heart goes out to his family back home in Latvia, his mom especially, and the entire Blue Jackets organization, his family, his friends, everybody. Cody, is if there's anything you want to add here.
The only thing I can really add is that the biggest takeaway from this is that share your love with your loved ones. I know I did after reading the news. 24 is way too young to go. Yeah. Send your love to your family if you haven't. You never know. Life is fleeting. Things can change at the drop of a hat. You never know what's going to happen, and you got to cherish every moment that you're alive and breathing, because you never know when it's going to be taken away from you or someone that you love. So, as someone who's recently lost a dear pet of mine, doesn't even register on the scale of losing a brother, a uncle, a cousin, that Matiss Kivlenieks. Tough loss for the hockey world, even harsher loss for the Latvian hockey community. And obviously, as you saw in the outpouring of support on Twitter, a brutal loss to the Columbus organization and the NHL community. So our hearts go out to him and everyone involved. And love your families, folks. And hope you enjoyed this episode. It's a lot of laughs, all things considered, that's going on. And we hope you enjoy it. And
Thank you.
This is the CreaseCast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, shit just got real. The Habs have pushed it to a Game 6. Big game for that guy that scored and pushed it to a Game 6. You don't usually see this a lot when a team goes down 3-0 and comes back to, at least force a Game 6. That's a big deal. But it's a great day for Canadian hockey, a great day for Canadian sports fans. just a great day in general if you're watching hockey, because now the stakes are even higher. The Habs only have
Cody,
to. Yeah,
Cody, I'm gonna have to cut you off there. I'm actually hearing, according to my my sources here, Tampa actually won. They actually won Game 5. Montreal didn't. They didn't score a goal. They actually lost the game.
Oh, God damn it!
I know this is shocking. I know this comes as a real surprise to you. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry that we had to spring that on you mid-show. But that's just what I'm hearing. I'm working on getting confirmation on that right now. But as of right now, Tampa has indeed won Game 5.
Okay,
and won the Stanley Cup for the second straight year.
That tracks, to be honest. This is okay. So then I'm just gonna rewind a little bit, redo my intro as they were. As it were. Good morning, or no? Yeah, I guess good morning, because you're listening to this in the morning, probably.
Yeah,
good morning on your drive to work or your afternoon break or whatever you're doing. We appreciate you for listening whenever during the day. But some wonderful news if you're a Canadian GM named Jim Benning, because Tyler Toffoli has not won the Stanley Cup with the Montreal Canadiens.
Why?
He dodged a bullet, because I think there was like a good streak there where every single Habs victory had Tyler Toffoli trending, and because Toffoli would start trending, Benning would start trending on Twitter, which is just amazing. Eric Engels reported in the post-game availability after the Lightning win that Dominique Ducharme basically went through all of the injuries of the Habs players, and Tyler Toffoli apparently was going through like a groin injury. So that's why he was like pretty much like a non-factor in the entire Tampa series and like the last like 2 or 3 games of the Vegas series. And you could see it, like his like skating was like atrocious. Like he just could not pivot, didn't have any speed. Like he could like maybe get enough straightaway speed to maybe attack with the rush, but like otherwise after that, he just had nothing left to give. So sucks for him, because he was having a tremendous playoffs. As I said, if you're trending after every single game and making an NHL executive look stupid by the virtue of just existing, that's a pretty good playoffs for you, even if you lost in Game 5 on the road in a very close game. Game 5 was like surprisingly very tight, even though the first period and like most of the second was pretty much just a blowout by Tampa. At one point, they were like up in shots 13 or 16-4. It was like not even close. And then the Habs got, I think, 1 or 2 power plays. The first power play sucked, but after their second power play, it was like they realized they needed to actually score goals to not get eliminated. And we know the result. It didn't work. They tried. They tried. They really battled back valiantly, given they really had 3 players like doing anything for them in this series. Tough break for them. Tough break for a lot of very likable players on that team. Shea Weber, Carey Price, Brendan Gallagher, Tyler Toffoli, Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki. Like they got a bunch of likable cats on that team. And you hate to see it. I'm sure Corey Perry, did you notice this on the broadcast? I think we were watching different ones, but as soon as the timer went off and they showed everyone celebrating, the first Hab they focused on was Corey Perry.
Yeah.
Because it was like back-to-back years. He's lost first time in 6 games, this time in 5. This series wasn't really close, no matter how much they battled. And of course, Corey Perry, both teams on the losing side. And like speaking of people that had a good series, like he was pretty money for the Habs, like all playoffs. Like he tried. Like I said, it didn't work, but he tried. So tough series. Sorry for all the Canadiens that listen to this show, and we're hoping for a Game 6 at home at the Bell Center. Not going to happen this year, but for all of us who are kind of itching for the offseason to begin, this was the right result, and it needed to happen because there's so much to get into.
So I'm guessing you're not one of the people who are already like, all right, when's October? Let's get back to the regular season, because I'm already kind of there.
I
I go through it every single every single Stanley Cup clincher game.
Yeah.
Where like right as I'm seeing them circle the ice holding the cup, I'm like, oh, this is, thank God, season's over. But then I'm also like, oh, but no hockey, but no hockey in the next 3 months.
Yeah,
The Canucks to come back, I'm ready.
A part of me is like, I really want, like, I'm about like the managerial side. Like, I'm really fascinated by like the cap management, the maneuvers, the trades, like what teams do to make themselves better next year or like get around like their current issues. And like, I am so interested in what Benning and Weisbrod and company decide to do to try and improve their decor, get their 2 best players signed, prepare an expansion draft, prepare an entry draft with only like $15 million. That's really interesting to me because of how much they have to navigate in like 2 months. I have zero interest in watching them play, though, because it's not going to be pretty, given what I just said. They have $15 million maybe to make their team better, which is an impossible task for a team that just finished dead last in the Canadian North Division. Interestingly enough, we'll get into this topic later, but one of the teams that a certain player just demanded a trade away from also has $15 to $17 million in cap space. But if you look at the players that are actually signed to the St. Louis Blues,
of their contract situation is a lot better. It's not about the number as much as it is about the what do you have already like locked in. It's never about the actual dollars and cents. Like you're always going to find your team is, unless you're like a team like say Ottawa that's either like purposely is staying on the cheaper side, building through the draft and developing. They're not going to be necessarily incredible. Every team is going to be close to that cap ceiling. Yeah. So it's always about, what is the quality of your team. And I mean, if you want to bring it, this episode's really mostly going to be a salute to the Tampa Bay Lightning, because they're back-to-back champions. Yeah. And a lot of that is due to the fact that they're so good at managing their cap situation to the point where they're able to keep players on their roster that and expand their roster base way over the existing cap space. And I know we've joked, like, again, we do. I feel like we talk about this pretty frequently, especially just during the playoffs, how, the running joke is that, they cheated and that they cap circumvention. Like
if you're not cheating, you're not winning.
A little bit. Yes. A little bit. Because here's the thing, it's not nothing that they did is against the rules. And the rules that they used exploited to give them that extra cap room essentially has been there forever. And teams like the Canucks, including the Canucks, have used it to their own benefit many times before. Lots of teams have done it. Yeah. This is not just Tampa this is not so much Tampa just figuring it out as that it existed, so much as they're the ones using it to the best possible potential, to the most potential. Yeah. And now you have a team that, at the beginning of the playoffs was coming in as the 4th seed in their division, playing okay, but not necessarily, third, my bad. 3rd in their division, but not necessarily, blowing anybody away after having won a Stanley Cup. They go up against a Florida Panthers team that's doing pretty darn well at the time, having one of their best seasons in recent memory. And from there on, the Lightning, they got back Kucherov, they got back Stamkos, and they were off. They were just off and running. Yeah. There was never really a point for me where it really looked like they were in trouble. Even when you get into the Islanders series that got pushed to a Game 7, there wasn't any single point in that series where I was straight up worried they were going to lose it or blow it. They felt like they had it. And that's really different from Lightning teams in the past. Like you go back 3 years ago, they got swept in the first round of the playoffs after winning the President's Trophy. Yeah. And there were a lot of people at the time, and I'm pretty sure I had this. I'm pretty sure I had this take at the time where you're never going to win with this group. Like clearly this team is busted. Mentally. You're never going to win with this group. It's time to move on kind of thing. And they didn't. And now look at them. They won 2 in a row. So, what do I know? But at the end, they've done a very good job. Like they built such a great team. And you can only hope that the Canucks and frankly, just about any other team in the league looks at how they got to that successful level, how they got to that level, and try to find their own version of it, not emulate it, because a lot of teams...
They should be.
Okay. The reason I'm saying not emulate it is because I think a lot of teams, and this is in all sports really, whenever a team wins, they basically take other teams take the cliff notes of why it worked, and not the whole foundational reasons why. Like they don't take the full. They don't take the full binder. They take like a chapter or a page out and think this is our key. This is the key to success. Yeah. And then they get inferior versions of it. They get inferior models of it. So for the Canucks and for other teams, what they should really be doing is trying to find their own version of why Tampa worked, and how do you essentially make a Vancouver version of that without just, ripping out the notes of this is how they won, right down to who was playing on line 3 and line 4. You gotta find your own path to that foundational success. And I guess the other thing just to bring up is the fact, like you mentioned the injuries and all the injuries to everybody on the Canadiens, and like there was the whole Alex Killorn telling Kyle Bukauskas that he broke his fibula and had surgery last week to put in a rod, and then played. And then I believe played on it, or no, he didn't. He missed the last couple games.
He practiced on it apparently, because they made a point about, they were discussing about how like they were playing in Montreal, like a few blocks away from like his high school growing up. And so apparently, like while they were there, he practiced at his high school rink or something like that, which, I mean, we don't really have time to get into medical staff and their duty of care. I don't know if I'm sure Roxy Fever will get to that at some point. That feels like their territory. Yes. But quickly back to your point about the whole emulating previous teams' models and just taking the cliff notes. One of the the main host of Roxy Fever, Jackson McDonald, was on his other podcast, Controlled Entries, had a wonderful episode. It's like their most recent or their second most recent episode, where they basically talk about this entire thing about how the Canucks have been chasing the Bruins model since 2011. And because of it, they've been losing Game 7 against the Bruins for the last 10 years. And they haven't seemed to get over it, which is true, because I mean, after last season's playoffs in the bubble, how many people, like, I remember this vividly, how many people were like, the Lightning won because they played big boy hockey, just like the Blues did. And it was like, how is that your takeaway? Like all of their wins came from undersized players with speed, scoring and dominating with possession at 5v5, as well as having a legitimate elite number 1 goalie.
Yeah, somebody had the list
because they had some big guys that block shots, the main takeaway for some GMs and a lot of prominent media members were they're playing big boy hockey the right way it's meant to be played. And it's like, you can definitely tell people are going to say that about this year's cup winning Tampa Bay Lightning because of that Barclay Goodrow block on Shea Weber. They're going to completely ignore the fact that Kucherov and Andre Palat and Braden Point and like Ross Colton, this child, helped score their way to, a finals and made it look completely easy, they're going to be like, oh, well, Pat Maroon won 3 times in a row and he's big. Therefore, you need big boys on your team to do big boy stuff. And it's like, you're missing the point a bit.
Yeah.
I think, I don't have the actual stats, but it was like Steven Stamkos, the way he was deployed at 5v5, his minutes were actually more of a third line forward than he was a first line forward, which is all you need to know about depth in an organization and how you can build a team to have a perfect mix of guys that are big, but also guys that are fast, undersized, and can score. And more importantly, control play. And that should be the real takeaway, is that you need to build a team with enough scoring and enough speed in your lineup that a guy like Steven Stamkos, who is a number 1 forward eating the most 5v5 minutes on any other team in the league, can play third line minutes so that Yanni Gourde can play first line minutes. Like, that's how insanely deep they are and how much depth scoring they have that they can do that kind of crap. It's insane.
Yeah. People were and this kind of this maybe doesn't tie so much into Toffoli now just because of the injury stuff, but one of the arguments you could also make, and why the Canadiens weren't able to win, is just because they have Josh Anderson, they have Cole Caulfield, they have Nick Suzuki, they have a lot of great players, but they don't have enough but they can't just let them go out there and dominate, because they're always going to be able. The Lightning we're always going to be able to match them at that tempo, and we're going to be able to give them more attention than say a team that's a little bit less deep on their roster, right? And and then when you throw in all the injuries and everything at the end of the day, it doesn't help. No, you can you can run into bad luck, but it's with injury. The Canucks in 2011 famously ran into just
at the worst time possible.
The worst luck when it came to injuries. I will never forget the fact that the only defenseman that played the entire 2011 playoffs for the Canucks was Sammy Salo, famously the guy who almost always gets hurt. He was the only defenseman that made it through the whole thing, and it was wild. And now you look at the way, you look at the Canadiens, who played through a lot, and it showed from time to time. They have nothing. They have to. You hold your heads high regardless of how you did. They're not they didn't go out a slouch here. But just this isn't so much I promise this is not a try it, please like my sport kind of thing here. But I'm just specifically because I'm going to bring it out to all sports here, where when you talk about the injury stuff and everything, I'm just high profile, high performance athletes are just another breed. They're just wild.
They're
kind of freaks. Yes. I always think back to there's this SpongeBob quote I remember where that basically I think represents everyone else, where who isn't a high performance athlete, where it's I'll have you know that I stubbed my toe last week while watering my spice garden and I only cried for 20 minutes that. And at the end of the day, all us normal people, we want to get into the salty splatoon, the high performance athletes of the NHL, the MLB, running, everything. But the best we will ever hope for is Weenie Hut Juniors.
I do not understand the reference, but I'm going to.
God, you're old. Okay. God, you're so old.
Yeah, dude, I'm not.
Absolute I'm talking classic Renaissance SpongeBob. How dare you?
I was golden 18 age by the time SpongeBob took off. All right.
God.
Actually, that's not true. That show's was around for ages, wasn't it?
It's still 2003. On. It's still
really?
Making,
oh shit. Okay.
Boy, it has been making episodes since 1999 and still going. It is. Yeah. It's Simpsons. Okay. It's the kids' version of The Simpsons. It will never end.
I've heard though that SpongeBob started as a kid show, and then at some point after 10 years, it became more adult oriented humor. That's what I've heard.
It's a little bit of I almost would say it's actually kind of it's kind of flipped. Like, I think the
Okay.
initial episodes were a little bit more. There were more like, here's a little bit of like a sneaky adult joke here and there.
Yeah.
Like, it was a little bit more everybody could watch. But then it got a lot more. It got way more cartoony and went
I see.
downhill as it went. So the
Okay.
show got less funny for anybody. But it also kind of turned into like a Family Guy kind of thing, where there's a lot of gross out humor and a lot of like
I was gonna say,
extra stuff.
does it turn
It
into
got-
like it's like for stoners or something? Like you
I
get
don't-
really high and laugh
I
at the
don't-
voices?
You know what?
'Cause
I
that's the vibe I get.
I have not watched any of the recent episodes of SpongeBob because I heard it was so bad. I probably
Okay.
would watch it because I am a cartoon guy. I probably would have watched it, but I heard they got just so bad that I stopped that I never really went back to look for them.
Yeah.
But apparently at one point it did kind of start rebounding and getting a little bit good again because they brought
Okay.
back a lot of original writers and stuff. But who knows?
Okay.
Who knows?
I've been
maybe
fooled by
that's-
that before because
Yeah.
like the Simpsons movie, I remember when they announced it, they were like, "Oh, the Simpsons movie, it's going to be great. They've
It was
brought
good.
back Man.
The movie was good. How dare
It's
you?
not
The
good.
movie was fine. The movie
No, because
was good.
it turns the lovable Simpson family into a bunch of assholes to the town. That sucks.
They were always that. They were always that.
Yeah, but not to the extent where the whole town is forming a lynch mob and trying to murder them all, and they have to leave. Like that's kind of shitty.
I
And
mean,
they're not in Springfield for most of the movie. Like that sucks. But anyway, this is a massive tangent. But anyway, the point was they said the Simpson movie was going to be good because they brought back like most of the writing staff from like the prime years, and then the movie actually came out and it's just like completely average, and it was like you fucking liars.
I don't think it was. I think it was better than average. Like it wasn't great. It wasn't. It wasn't.
Okay, but you were born
or anything. But
you were born
fine.
like 7 years ago, so of course it's good for you. If you grew up with the Simpsons in the 90s,
I've seen. How dare you? I've seen every single. I've seen pretty much every single episode.
It's not the same, you child.
Okay, like look, we can
Anyway,
talk about franchises that have been around for years and have been kind of doing the same thing, overstayed their welcome from time to time and running on the same model for as long as they can. But enough about the Canucks. We're Montreal has done. Montreal. I think we've given some. I don't want to say. I don't even know if crap's the right word because maybe
it's hard to give them crap though because they play well.
Oh, I'm talking about past. Like I'm talking about in the past. Like I think there was a long stretch where I remember just anytime Marc Bergevin did anything with the Canadiens, I was like, what are you doing? Like, where's the logic here? What is like how like I have no idea how you came to this conclusion that this was a good idea.
Well,
and now you fast forward to now, like they're still not like again, they're not world beaters. Like they got to the playoffs with the same way that every team does. Like nobody gets into the cup final by fluke, but it does take a little bit of luck. It takes a bit of luck. It takes having the right people in the right place at the right time kind of thing. It is a bit of a, catching lightning in a bottle sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And to their credit, they played exceptionally well. Like they did as best I think they could have done against Tampa. I thought they might actually, you and I thought they might win. Like we honestly thought they might win.
We legitimately thought they would have had a chance because Vegas had looked so good against the Avs that it was kind of like if they can shut them down at 5v5 and neutralize their power play, then oh man, Tampa's going to be in trouble if Montreal is hanging at 5v5 with Vegas, who are just like a wrecking ball. Then this could be a really close series. I had an infamous tweet where I had said Habs in 5.
You had multiple infamous. You had quite the postseason. It was quite the postseason for Cody.
I realized after that because I was trying to do a lot of reverse jinxing, and so I should have said Tampa in 5, which actually is kind of what happened. I got the reverse of Habs in 5. It was actually Tampa.
You got exactly what you asked.
I got exactly what I asked for through my jinx, but just as like a comparable to like the Canucks in because of course this is a Canucks podcast and unfortunately we have to talk about them from time to time. But when the Canucks played the Golden Knights, they got completely shelled at 5v5 and were basically kept in it by a goaltender playing out of his mind. would you like to talk about the goaltending and how important it is? I don't know if you're a goalie guy.
Yes.
But yes.
I dabble. I've dabbled in it from time to time.
I'm going to talk about controlled entries again here for a second, but like shout out to them because they're like, it's Reese Jessup, it's Garrett Hole, and Jackson McDonald, and they're very funny and very analytical. It's very smart stuff. They have a funny joke when they're talking about the Vegas and Canucks series because they're like, if you want any perspective on how bad the Canucks did against Vegas, they got 985 save percentage out of a goaltender and still lost. That's how bad they did. And It's true because they were literally held in there by goaltending. And the Habs, they had the goaltending and they had the depth scoring. It wasn't, I would say, like, honestly, the scoring between this current Habs lineup and the Canucks lineup that took Vegas to Game 7 is pretty comparable. The difference is, though, that Canucks lineup could not control play at 5v5 to save their lives. Their PK was garbage because of how old and slow the players were on that unit. The Habs have like Joel Armia and Tyler Toffoli killing penalties, and Joel Armia had like 5 goals for them in the playoffs. Like, that is what you need. You need players who can contribute in like these inopportune moments. And so because of that, of course, they managed to beat Vegas and get themselves to Tampa and give a false sense of hope to people like you and myself who were like, oh, they did that against Vegas, which is really hard to do.
Time for an unexpected winner. Time for a Cinderella team to lift the cup.
But it was kind of like we were saying earlier, like Tampa's biggest like threat was the Islanders, and in their Game 7 against the Islanders, it was just like, oh right, these guys just won the cup. They know how to win. It was just not even close that entire time. I think the games, like the first game against the Habs, like it was complete destruction. Game 2 and 3 were actually pretty close from the Habs perspective. They just couldn't get a goal past Vasilevsky, who I'm sure we'll get into when we discuss the Conn Smythe voting. But it was a lot closer than I think most people expected, which made it kind of interesting. But I mean, we can turn the page now and look to the off season, which is going to be wild for the next 10 days.
Yeah.
Insanely wild. We had a couple news breaks during tonight's game, which was so amazing. Like, I don't usually when like just to peel back the sausage bit, show how the sausage is made. Whenever we're doing an episode, we'll kind of be messaging each other like during the game or like whatever, like any pieces of news that gets dropped on Twitter or NHL.com or whatever. We're just like constantly messaging each other stuff that we can possibly talk about. And our chat was blowing up because the first period, it's like, you know, there's people injured. Cabs are looking like crap. They're getting destroyed, but it's 0-0. And then, like, out of nowhere, Jeremy Rutherford of The Athletic is just like, oh, yeah, Vlad Tarasenko wants a trade out of St. Louis. And it just, like, blew up all over Twitter, which was so funny.
Wait. What a time! That's great. What is? Except it's not really in this case because like it's perfect timing. That's a great.
That's a great time to drop like this huge news nugget. It's just
bombshell.
Like, by the way, this guy really wants out of this team on the night. So so after tonight at 12:01 a.m. the buyout window opens for the NHL. So it's like perfect timing to be like, oh, St. Louis, figure out what you want to do with your buyouts because I want the fuck out of here. Yeah. Which is so spicy and juicy because after that, the roster freeze is in like 10 days or something like that, 8 days. And then it's the like expansion draft. Like they have so much to figure out in 10 days.
Yeah, it might even be because are they moving up the draft, the expansion draft, and everything? Because technically,
I believe really quick.
Because technically, that wasn't. I don't think that was supposed to happen until at least late July. I think that was supposed to be like the second to last week of July. Is supposed to be like when that hits, but maybe they're moving it up because the series ended earlier.
It has to be, yeah.
But I don't even know because technically, even if even if the Habs had somehow managed to come all the way back and push it to a game
Yeah.
7, that would have been just Saturday. So who knows? But the Tarasenko thing is going to be interesting. I look forward to seeing him in a Golden Knights jersey next year because I'm sure that's where he's going. Either there or Tampa. Or Tampa is going to find a way to get it done. I did see somebody suggest that maybe Montreal would try and go for that sort of thing. Might try and jump at that. There are lots of options on the table. Tarasenko is a very good player. I guess before we get into that, though, before we fully jump into that, did you want to do the Conn Smythe stuff just really quick?
Let's do it because
let's finish off the Cup final stuff.
Yeah, because if you don't know, they awarded it for whatever reasons. Like NHL award voting is so weird, but they wait until the second period is over to cast their ballots for who they believe should win the Conn Smythe. The winner was the Lightning's goaltender Andrei Vasilevsky. I don't really care. I think it could have been Vasilevsky, it could have been Kucherov. I would have been like, yeah, great. They both had a great case for it. I think Vasilevsky looked a little rough in the Florida series, and I think that gets kind of forgotten a bit. Like there were some really high scoring games where he did not look that hot, but he played 26 games straight, no break.
Played every single game.
Still had like a really solid save percentage, like typical stuff, high expected goals against, but like even lower actual goals against. Like dude was out of his mind. But Kucherov, like 9 points more than the next highest player, and that includes like his own line mates. In
the next
20
best guy
games
was his own line mate. Yeah,
it's insane. Was it 32 points in 22 games? Like that is
Connor McDavid
ridiculous.
levels, basically.
Yeah, it's like, man. Yeah. Wouldn't you love to have that kind of guy on your team out of nowhere in the playoffs?
Yeah. I thought you were going to be like, wouldn't you love to have Connor McDavid in the finals? And I'd be like, yes, that would be good for the sport if he went there, but he never went.
Man,
jeez.
I was looking at, so like to complete side note, after the game, I was going through like the elite prospects page for the Lightning and just seeing which these guys have now won 2 cups in a row. And I'm just like, man,
lots.
Luke Schenn has 2 cups now. Pat Maroon has 3 in a row. Yeah, Luke Schenn was completely fine. Like
I loved him as a Canuck. He was great.
He picked the perfect team to go to for his cup chasing. Like that is absolutely brilliant.
Can we talk about Curtis McElhinney getting just the best front row seat to a second straight championship? Like good for him. I guess not. No, because he wasn't the backup last year, was he? Because he would have been.
He was, wasn't he?
Was he?
I think he was. I don't think he played any games though.
You're right. He did play. He was he signed a 2-year contract with the Lightning and got 2 cups out of it. Like what a run for my guy. Like,
on that note, actually, because McElhinney, like if you're playing behind Vasilevsky, you know your role. You're basically there to like warm the guys up in practice. You have no actual games, right? But
you're there to get a free ticket to a championship. Like good for you. Go. You get paid. Sorry, correction. You get paid like $1.3 million to sit and watch a Stanley Cup run.
That rocks. Like
that dream.
And your name's on the cup twice in a row. Like
you get the rings. You get the day with the cup. You get everything that all the other players did. You get paid for your trouble, and all you had to do was sit on the bench and be moral support. What a guy. What a legend.
On the note of like players that didn't actually like play games or whatever, like Kyle, how do you pronounce it?
Bukowskis. Yeah,
Bukowskis. Okay, so he had his interview with Matthew Joseph, who won the cup with Tampa last year, but he didn't actually suit up in any games, and he played 5 games this year for Tampa in their
some
cup
of the final,
runs.
including
in the final as well. And it's like he played great. Like he would probably be a second line
awesome.
forward on the Canucks. Like he's legitimately good, and he had points. Like he had 2 or 3 or something in 5 games. Like
some very good setups. Like there were a couple. Like I think 2 of his points were incredible. Were like really
they were like
executed.
legit great passes. But he said in his interview after swearing and complimenting, oh God, I hate this, Kyle Bukauskas.
Yeah.
Bukauskas, he compliments the suit and he's like, it's a great fucking suit. Like in the middle of his TV interview on NBC. And then he's like,
I love it.
Great suit, I mean. And then he basically talks the whole time about how, it was so much better to have been able to actually contribute via games and not just like kind of be on the bench or on the taxi squad, but to actually like help the team win. And he's like, last season I was mostly an emotional support guy. That was kind of my role. And I really tried to cheer the guys up because it was tough being in the bubble. But this year to actually contribute on ice and like prove that I can do it, like this was a way bigger win for him than it was last year.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm sure Matt Delaney's like, I would love to play.
Like, I'm obviously like, I'm obviously mostly kidding. Like, yeah, but you want to play. Like, you don't get to the NHL. The rare few do, but like generally you don't make it to the NHL unless you want to be playing hockey like every single night and you enjoy it with a burning passion. There was that one question that kind of went around Twitter a few days ago that actually I think would be interesting to ask here. There was the question of I think Drancer was the one who actually put this out. There was the question of and this was in relation to Pat Maroon. Would you rather have I think it was
$30 million over your career or $10 million and like
win
your name on
cups.
the cup or something?
So you get as many cups as Maroon for $10 million or get like $25-30 million and no Stanley Cups. I guess like I'll ask you where would you stand on if you were in that situation? Where are you going?
I would go 10 mil and 3 cups without a doubt. Like
same here.
30 mil, like whatever, like that's great. But like if you can actually have like a legacy outside of just like handing down cash to your kids as you grow up, like you can be like, hey kids, check out the Hockey Hall of Fame or whatever. My ring is going to be in there with your dad's name on it 3 times in a row. That's pretty damn cool. Yeah,
I agree. I'll say this. I don't think there is a wrong answer. I saw a lot of people trying to be like, you're wrong for how dare you, like, or being like, you would take the money in that situation, or like even or like some people going
the high roading, like you'd take 30 mil. That's a lifetime. It's like, it's also a lifetime, $10 million.
Yeah, I can live on. Yeah, I can do just fine off $10 million. Thank you. And also, like, here's the thing. When you're like, if you really want to make this about money, you know how much money you make as I'm Stanley Cup champion, insert name here. Like you can make money off of that alone.
Look at the NHL broadcast and how many guys are just there because they've won cups in the past.
Yeah, you can.
That's all it takes.
Yeah, you can easily make that money back. And for me, it's the exact same way. Like, especially just because, like even in my lifetime, I've obviously never played anywhere close to the NHL. But like, I don't know.
If you think about it, though, you were technically closer than like 98% of the player base because you played Div whatever hockey
division. I don't think so. I think you're underestimating how many people play Division 3 hockey.
I understand that. But if you think like it's like the bell curve, right? Like the actual like hockey player base is like the 99%.
Yes, compared to
right?
like if you took the entire global population. Yes, I'm in the 1% of people.
You're basically there.
I'm basically there. Sure, if we really want to fudge the numbers.
If we're going on the bell curve here, you're closer to the NHL than I am. So
okay, yes, sure.
Pat yourself on the back, buddy. Come on.
Okay, thank you. I will. You know what? I will. I've earned it.
And plus, you're a goaltender. Here's the other thing. There's not that many goaltenders, so technically you're way closer.
Yeah,
way closer to the NHL than most people. So stop being so hard on yourself.
You're right. But I'll say this, that they're like, even though I never got like close to playing in the NHL or like playing for like a serious like championship of some kind, right?
Yeah.
There are still like minor hockey banners or championships or tournaments that I did not win and that my team didn't win that still to this day haunt me. Like I still have like, there will still be moments that I'm just like, damn it, if we just made that, like, if I hadn't missed that one shot, or if I had played that rebound differently, it happens all the time where I'm just like, God damn it. Like I think about it, it still makes me mad that I lost. And from a personal standpoint, I'm always just like, I would so rather take less money to win the championship, because I know if I didn't, I would never feel satisfied. Like that, it would just be me sitting, like if I took the money, it would just be me sitting in a huge house, but I'd still be just lamenting over the fact that I'd never won a championship. Like that would be it. I would never be able to enjoy that money, because I would never have been, I would never be able to get over the fact that I had lost like a Stanley Cup. Like it would kill me.
How would you feel though if you get to the Cup final, you play pretty good, you're really damn good, you may have had a rough start to your season, but like a teammate of yours who was on vacation for most of the year, he comes to the finals, he scores like above a point per game, and he's unreal, and he gets mad at you because you won the playoff MVP trophy and he didn't. How would you feel about that?
Well, first of all, I'd say, Nikita, you won 2 Stanley Cups and you're making like $10 million at the same time. Get over yourself. If he did do that, I don't think he did. I would be stunned if Nikita Kucherov was like banging down Andrei Vasilevsky's door, yelling at him for stealing his Conn Smythe. That would be very funny. But as
another complete tangent again, did you see how like miserable Mikhail Sergachev was through the entire celebration?
No, I didn't.
I don't know if anyone's tweeted about this, but like he looked like he could give 2 shits that he just won the cup. Like he does his lap and he's just like completely stone faced. Maybe he's like a stone faced guy or something, but like he hands the cup to Sorelli, and like, you know how they always like give each other hugs, like
resting game face. Yeah.
But like he hands the cup to Sorelli, doesn't even like give him a back pat. He just like spins and he's like dead face. It is so bizarre. Like I'm sure someone tweeted about it, like where they're just like, is Mikhail Sergachev okay? He seems so sad.
Yeah, that'd be my first question. Just like, I would be like, oh my God, like, hopefully he didn't find out any like bad news. Like today or something, where he's like, I don't know, who knows?
He looked at the cap hit. He looked at Cap Friendly on the bench and was like, oh no, this is the last cup I'll probably win with this team. Actually, we can get into that after our eventual final Conn Smythe discussion.
Yeah.
Because I know you have opinions.
I have opinions.
Yes.
And then we'll go into, and I mean, we were supposed to talk about Tarasenko a while ago.
Oh, yeah. But get your Conn Smythe opinions out, and then we'll loop around.
You all signed up for this episode knowing this was going to be a bit of a wonky one, because it's, you know, the last one to end actual hockey season, and just so much going on. You knew what you were going to get today. And I think you're getting us at our best, really. Look, I do, like, so many people, like Dom Lucian, I think, was the one who really trumpeting the whole why Kucherov deserved to win the Conn Smythe. And literally he talked about how, you know, you mentioned the 9-point lead. He is the only player to, not only is that just like huge on its own, it's the fact that he is the only player to do that that isn't named Wayne Gretzky, who did it twice, and Mario Lemieux, who did it once. Like, that's wild. Like, that's incredible. Like, that the fact that he was able to put up that many points is incredible.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of, like I said on Twitter, a lot of much smarter people than me will tell you why Kucherov deserved to win. That being said, I think that Vasilevsky was the correct choice, because here's the thing. He what was the one thing I kept saying throughout these playoffs is that this completely changed the way that I look at the Lightning, based on the fact that there were a lot of games during these playoffs where they were not the better team. Lots of them. Not so much during the final. They were pretty much the better team in every game except for maybe one in the Cup final. Game 2 being like the outlier for me. Whereas in the first 3 rounds, there were a lot of games where they were clearly getting outplayed, they were getting out-checked, and they were just being opportunistic. And just a skill within itself.
Florida series.
Yeah, don't kid yourself. That's a skill. Like, that's
Yeah.
not me taking away from the fact that they're a good hockey team. It's just the fact that there were a lot of games where other teams were dominating them in the shot totals, in controlling the actual play and possession of the game. And the Lightning were just, when they got their opportunities, they are so good that they were just striking at the right time. But for that to work, you have to have incredible goaltending. And Andrei Vasilevskiy was amazing. I, for a long time, thought it's kind of weird that he kept getting nominated for Vezina trophies, because I felt like, well, he's playing in front of the best team in the league, one of the best defenses. Like,
Right.
that's got to help you.
And then you watch them play.
Yeah. And then you watch them play more seriously and on a regular basis. It completely changed the way I look at the Lightning. Whereas they're not one goalie getting buoyed by a very good team. They're a pretty darn good team getting buoyed by an elite goaltender. Without Andrei Vasilevskiy, they do not even make the final. Like, it doesn't matter how many points Kucherov gets, because they
Curtis
don't make the
McElhinney.
final. Curtis McElhinney, though,
38 years old, he might have had it.
He might. I mean, hey, he got the Hurricanes to a sweep of the Islanders a couple of years ago. Why not? I think Vasilevskiy, without him, they don't get to the final. They don't even get here. So I think the fact that he won was the right call.
I would have picked Kucherov for this one reason, and this one reason only. In his post-game availability, he showed up shirtless, and then he rolled off this quote, which I will read to you in full.
Oh my God, I'm excited for this. I don't know.
This is as reported by Chris Johnson. Nikita Kucherov, bracket, quotes. The fans in Montreal acted like they won the Stanley Cup last game. Are you kidding me? Their final was last round.
Wow.
Damn.
Jeez.
Okay.
So he's never
twist the knife, bro.
Jeez. Like,
that rocks so hard. And
does
actually,
it though?
he had another quote.
Why are you focusing on Why are you focusing on the Montreal fans literally right after you just won a Stanley Cup? Like,
they probably
maybe
asked
you're
him,
right.
like,
Maybe he is salty about that conspite.
Hey, it might be.
Maybe he's just going after him.
He did say to benefit your statement on why Vasilevskiy was deserving. Kucherov also said if he played in a different market, he would win the Vezina every year. Which, I mean, if he was in Toronto, it would be obnoxious how much you'd hear about Vasilevskiy and how he was saving Canadian hockey. Like,
I mean, hell, the Lightning. I mean, if he was on the Leafs, they probably make it past round one.
Oh,
but I'm just saying, he probably steals one there. Like, they're not. He's not wrong. Kucherov is not wrong. So
fan question. This comes from Sanj Bain. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, dude. At SanjBot on Twitter. What are the odds of a Bolts three-peat? Honestly,
that's a great question. It's a great question. It feels kind of like a silly question, like on the surface, but it's actually a really good one, because I mean, we rarely get back-to-back championships anymore, like in hockey, because it's so, the parity level is so well balanced.
Yeah, the Penguins doing it was like, oh my God, this will never happen again. And
like
the Lightning just were like, no, hold our beer, we got this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great question.
I'm kind of the mindset, like, I'm aware of the kind of cap problems that they're facing right now. But the other part of me is like, they had no problem this year. They found a way. And this is a team, a GM that always finds a way. The expansion draft's going to take away a good player on a pretty decent ticket. And once that happens, they're just going to refill the bottom of their lineup with someone from their AHL team, and they're going to be perfectly good. There's a kid on their team, Taylor Radish. There's Boris Kachuk, who were both incredible for their AHL team in a very watered down season. So I have no doubt in my mind they are going to get games out of them, or Alex Bure-Boulay. They're just like, they're such a well-oiled machine, man, that they're like, whoever they lose in this offseason, like, next man up mentality, where it doesn't matter. They've got a system that works, and the core that they have is still mostly intact. They still have Hedman, Sergachev, Ryan McDonough probably isn't going to go anywhere. Stamkos, Kucherov, Vasilevsky. I think we were saying this in the last episode or the episode before. We're like, Vasilevsky's only like 24 years old or 26 years old or something like that. Like
he's 26 and signed for 7 more years after this.
Yeah, that is.
He's got a lot of prime goaltending still left.
They're still going to be contending so long as they have Vasilevsky on their team, barring some kind of monumental fall off, which I don't think will ever happen with his game playing behind a team like that. Like it's just not going to happen. I would say the odds of a three-peat are very high. I would not be shocked if they did it.
I would
at least, getting deep in next year's playoffs.
That's fair. I would not be shocked if they did it, but I don't think they. I'm going to say no. They won't, because next year, here the one thing that threw this kind of out of whack, this one playoff, and I'm again, like, I swear to God, I'm not putting an asterisk on the fact that they won at all. Like, this is not an asterisk on the fact that they won at all. But next year we go back to the regular divisions. It's going to be a little bit more of a normal schedule. It's going to be a normal 82 game schedule. It's going to be, and the playoffs are going to go back to the way they're normally seated and divisions that are normally placed the way they are. And from that, it's going to probably make it a little easier for other teams to come out and surprise and maybe play a little bit and get a little bit farther in the playoffs. Because this year, injuries decimated a lot of teams because of just how much hockey they were playing in such a short amount of time. COVID outbreaks as well. Yes. Next year, things are going to be probably as close to normal in a post-pandemic era as you can get. Yeah. So I think the odds of them winning, I think the odds of them winning are still high, but I don't think they're going to be the best team in the NHL next year, the way they ended up being this year and to a certain extent last year. I think Colorado's going to be another year better and another year stronger. I think Vegas, barring doing anything completely crazy, they should be a little bit. They will. They should be a little bit stronger and a little bit better on their own. There are other teams, like there are some teams that didn't make the playoffs this year that theoretically are going to be much better the next time around. Like, I mean, the fact, like, hey, Dallas didn't make the playoffs this year, and don't kid yourself. Like, Miro Heiskanen's only going to get better from there. Like,
Jason Robertson's going to get better.
Jason Robertson, like, yeah, they didn't make the postseason this year just because of how stacked their division was.
And they started with a giant COVID outbreak too.
Right.
I think a lot that was kind of floated under the radar is like they had their season delayed by like 3 weeks because everyone on the team got infected with COVID. Right. And they were not the same. They had, what was it? They came out with like a few wins. They did the Canucks thing. They came out, they won like a few games, and then the governor of Texas or whatever said, we're going to always stand for the anthem in Texas. We're not going to be doing any kind of peaceful protests. And then after that moment, they lost like every single game.
Yeah. Whoops.
That shit was amazing.
That was pretty funny. Yeah, there are a lot of teams that in theory are going to get better. Yeah. There are some teams are going to fall back, but I think there are a lot more teams that are just about to start hitting kind of back into their potential and their peak.
Yeah. New York Rangers, for another example.
New York Rangers are going to get, New York Rangers are probably going to get better. They have had a bit of a weird offseason, so that could change depending on what they do. I mean, hell, Florida, I think, is only going to get better from here. And Florida was arguably the team that gave them, I guess the Islanders, gave them a bit of a tougher challenge. But the Panthers, like, literally, if they had just played Spencer Knight through from game one, they probably win that first series. Like, they might win that, or at the very least, it's a lot closer than it ended up being. And they're improving. They're improving quickly, that team.
How much do you think the Florida Panthers management team is like begging Bobrovsky to waive his no trade clause to go to Seattle?
I don't even know. I don't think they can even ask. I feel like they'd be too, well, I guess it wasn't their signing. Like, it wasn't Bill Zito's signing, so maybe he wouldn't care.
Yeah.
Ownership might be like, well, yeah, we don't want to. Yeah, we can't admit take an L on this. You're gonna have. He's gonna have to tough it out here. I don't know. I guess it depends on how much Bobrovsky really wants to play and wants to get back to his level, because it doesn't seem like he's getting there where he is.
No.
Which is in contrast to the guys they brought in who have done well, like Drieger
Yes.
and Spencer Knight, obviously being the big one. So, and then they have, I think, another guy. I think they have another guy who's not even there yet, who they just drafted pretty recently, who's also supposed to be very, very good. In their goaltending background, I believe it is, if I remember correctly, it is I guess it doesn't show, but I'm almost certain there's another guy coming for them too, who isn't even there yet. So yeah, maybe. I guess we'll get into Tarasenko now, because honestly, like, that's the next big thing, is the fact that Tarasenko's up, and I guess this leads us into our usual as we go transition into the Canucks talk, into the Canuckverse conversation, because we had multiple people asking us about Tarasenko. Ryan at HockeyHugs10 asked, okay, so Tarasenko to Vancouver, what you got? And then Jeremy Baramy, great reference, at Herderfunk, I think, Herderfunk or something like that. Herderfunk.
Air Dr. Funk, I believe.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Would Nate Schmidt for Tarasenko at least get a conversation started with the Blues? That's actually kind of an on the surf, like, my immediate instinct says no.
Yeah,
but maybe, like, it's not the wildest thing I've ever heard. Like, it's not the craziest suggestion.
On any other team, I would be like, yeah, I mean, a second pair, defenseman should get the conversation started for a $7.5 million winger. But the Blues defense is pretty locked in for the most part. Like, their only defenseman they have to re-sign this next year is Vince Dunn, and
that's a big one.
I think he's a big one with like an RFA deal or something. I mean, they'll lose one of them to the expansion draft or whatever, but like,
I feel like
if it's for that, like, from their sake, they don't really have anyone to lose out of their forwards. Like, I feel like they're probably going to go with the scheme where it's like you protect 8 skaters instead of 7 forwards, 3D, 1 goalie. I think they're going to do the 8 skaters of any position, because realistically, like, their forward group is mostly aged out, except for O'Reilly, and now Tarasenko wants out. So, like, who do they really have to protect at this point? Yeah. I'm sure, like, it would probably get the conversation started, right? Because St. Louis would be like, oh yeah, I mean, hey, that saves us money, but you need to cough up way more, because this is clearly a first, second line scoring winger, regardless of injury issues. So you need to add a bunch more to make this even worth our while.
Oh, all right, guys. We will take Jordan Binnington off your hands. No, that would start a war. I don't want that. I don't want that anyway. Like, literally, oh my god, he would not like.
Isn't he getting paid $6 million starting next year?
Yes, he is. He's getting paid $6 million for the next 6 years. He's no thank. That's I'll take Ville Husso. I'm interested in him. He's only $750,000. He's pretty good. The one thing I'm looking at, just looking at their cap friendly, I guess we should kind of we didn't fully get into why he's leaving St. Louis. I guess I'll go into that, because what Jeremy Rutherford, you mentioned at the top from the Athletic posting why he wants to trade. Basically, this is direct quote from this article, which you should go check out. According to sources familiar with the situation, he is upset with the team's handling of his shoulder surgeries in 2018 and 2019, his first 2 of 3 such surgeries, which were both performed by Blues physicians, and feels there's no trust left between him and the organization. In March, The Athletic wrote about those procedures and a third one in 2020, which was carried out by non-club doctors at the Stedman Clinic in Edwards, Colorado. The ligament damage from the first injury was not corrected in either of the first 2 operations. Again, reminder, for those 2 being done by the Blues doctors, sources say, and wasn't caught until Tarasenko was seen by the doctors at Stedman Furthermore, sources say that Tarasenko complained about discomfort in his shoulder before rejoining the Blues for the playoffs in the Edmonton bubble in 2020, and that he believes the club waited too long before doing additional testing.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's a huge yikes. The fact that they performed 2 surgeries on him in-house that did not actually fix the thing. Well, maybe they fixed one thing, but they didn't fix the whole thing. They fixed they might have at most fixed like half of it.
Sure.
Like huge problem. Problem. There's clearly that's a irreparable situation where you no longer, again, we talked about it with Eichel because that's kind of where they're at. Buffalo, the Eichel in the Buffalo situation is kind of the same thing, albeit for a different injury, where if you can't trust the doctors on the team and the people in charge to do right by you and to keep you safe, and to put your safety at first, you can't play for them. Like it's bottom line. Like I would expect anyone in that situation to do the same thing where they're like, yeah, I'm never playing here again. You can repair trust between, say, coaches and you yourself and regular just coaching staff. You can repair trust between players and other players. You can't repair it between the people who are in charge of making sure that you are healthy and safe and making sure you can live your best possible life. You can, once that trust is gone, it is gone. Like that's never coming back unless you fire somebody. And it looks like they don't plan on going that way. So Tarasenko is probably on the market. I think the one thing that I think, if we're talking about Nate Schmidt, if that is, say, the situation that would get him to Tarasenko to Vancouver, which I personally would be okay with. Like obviously the money is a question because of how much cap space they need for Pettersson and Hughes. But I mean, even Tarasenko you mentioned you're worried about the shoulder injury. Yeah. You're worried about his long-term health. If it's been fixed, there is no, like, Tarasenko would immediately be one of the best players on the Canucks right now. Like, I don't think there's any doubt about that. And even in a depth role, he would be a huge improvement on a lot of the guys they have. It's really just a matter of, can they afford it? To which point right now, the answer is obviously no. So you have to, it's a hefty contract to pull out, especially because of the injury stuff. The one thing that they have going for them, if they want to get it done for maybe at a cheaper cost, is, as far as I can tell, when it comes to the Seattle expansion draft coming up, the Blues already have 3 guys currently on their defense with no move clauses. So, or no trade clauses, right? Which are Justin Folk, Torrey Krug, and Marco Scandella. I don't know how that fully affects their situation going into the expansion draft. Maybe you can look that up while I'm talking about it. But should those be locked in for the expansion draft, like they have to protect those 3, that means that Colton Parayko is exposed for them, and that's a huge loss. That's a huge loss for them. So if that's the case, they would be probably very interested in a Nate Schmidt coming in if they end up losing a Parayko at the expansion draft. You might be able to talk to them based on that fact of, look, you're going to lose a pretty darn good defenseman here to Seattle. We have defensemen who we are not, as necessarily need to keep as worried about protecting. Yeah. So here, if you want to say they want to keep Parayko later on, like you can maybe say, we're going to give you, I don't know, we'll give you Schmidt for one of your lesser guys, for one of your lesser for Tarasenko, and then, I don't know, someone else. Like that might be a talking point that they're worth discussing after the expansion draft happens, if that is kind of how their system is set up. If Parayko, if they found a way to protect all 4, then that point kind of goes out the window. But I think right now, the fact that you're about to lose a top 4 defenseman I would imagine, like looking at their forwards, I don't see a lot of I see less forwards they'd be worried about parting with than I do defensemen for them.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Like the obvious solution would just be protect 8 skaters alone, because I don't think you need to protect anyone if their no move clause has any teams like exceptions to it. Like Alex Edler on the back end of his deal has like a no move clause, but it's like he can list 16 teams. If you have a list of teams, technically you don't have to protect them. Like John Tavares has a 0 team no move clause with the Maple Leafs. So he has to automatically be protected by the Leafs in the expansion draft. Same thing with like Kucherov, Stamkos, I think Victor Hedman as well has the same thing. So it's like if you're St. Louis, you have all these guys that have no move clauses, but because they have the exceptions to a list of teams, like they're not obligated to protect them because they are allowed to negotiate like an exception to trade out to Seattle. So I think they would probably just be like, we're going to protect like Falk, Krug, Parayko, and, Vince Dunn, and then expose Scandella and Bortuzzo or whoever, right? And then, 4 of their most prized forwards, like Robert Thomas, obviously number 1, Ryan O'Reilly, like that's a guarantee.
Yeah.
Braden Shen, I guess.
He's a little older. I think
that's what I mean. Like when I was saying earlier, like their core is kind of aging out. Yeah, because they're aging out. Like they're all like pushing into their 30s. Yeah, that's why everyone was like, "Oh, this is bad for hockey because it's gonna reemphasize size, age, and grit." And it's like, oh god, hopefully the Canucks that's not their takeaway, is they just get big old dudes and hope for the best. So I think they'll probably go with the 8 skaters and they'll probably be fine. But like, I mean, if maybe they're like, yeah, we value Robert Bortuzzo more than Vince Dunn, let's try and move him so that we can get something in return for him. Then maybe the Canucks look at doing like a multi-person flip. Like we go for Dunn and Tarasenko and we flip them Schmidt and something very, very valuable.
It'll probably cost you prospects, which is
something they're not like deep with.
Yeah, it would I mean, geez, I don't even know like prospects where they'd start there, because I mean, obviously Podkolzin is a non-starter. You're not giving him away. You're not giving like it. I mean, for Tarasenko, I mean, this is the hard part, because if Tarasenko was like 100% healthy and this was just he doesn't want to play in St. Louis thing, they would very easily be able to be like, you're going to give us like Nils Höglander for him. At least, right? But here it's kind of tougher. You can I mean, at least for them, the Canucks could maybe get a better deal. At the end of the day, I do think, it's probably going to cost, like, it's not, Cole Lind is not going to be involved in this. It's going to be somebody a little bit higher profile. It's probably like, just looking over, it might even be someone we don't have yet in the system. It might be somebody they're about to draft. I don't know, because there are not a lot of high profile guys.
I feel like Canucks fans do this all the time. They overvalue and overrate their prospects. Like you see Jet Wu
every team does
all
that.
The time.
That's not just I think that's,
Canucks fans especially are very bad at it though. Like you still have people today being like Jonah Gadjevich and a third is going to get you Jack Eichel. This is like no.
That's the real question. Are we about to see another Blues Sabres blockbuster where it's Eichel for Tarasenko? It's like, so they don't trust our doctors, but they might trust yours, and they just flip the two. They just flip the two. I mean, that would blow up social media for the day. It would be very funny. It'd be very fun. I guess in reality, I think it's not. I think you and I are both in agreement that Tarasenko is a long shot. Like, it would be great. It would be fantastic if you brought him in. It would instantly make you a lot better.
I'm actually not even of that mindset. Actually,
if you look at the Pacific Division, like, it's not that. That's the thing. If you look at the Pacific Division, it is not that hard to be better than some of the teams in that group.
I honestly, I think it's a lot harder than people give it credit for. Like, I really don't think. I don't think Tarasenko is a player that makes the Canucks so much better that they're a guaranteed playoff team.
It's not a guarantee.
They're not. But the thing is, they're just like, you look at their decor, you look at the Canucks defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Say they trade Schmidt, right? And some prospect or pick
that
or some combination of whatever goes out.
If you get Tarasenko back, that's great, but your defense
back.
is now depleted.
And now you have less money to actually rebuild your defense. So
yeah, which
for
is
my
your most
money's
glaring
worth,
issue.
The money you've now allocated to Tarasenko isn't going to your defense. So you're not a playoff contender. You're not in a competitive window. So all you've done is just add someone who's fun.
Okay, but fun is fun.
Fun is fun.
Just to be devil's advocate here, like,
or get the playoffs.
Just to be devil's advocate, though, would the Canucks not be better off as the way that they're as based on the roster they have currently? Would they not be better off just going, fuck defense, we're just going to be juggernaut fun in the offensive zone, all offense, all offense? Like that, would that not honestly be a better strategy for them to take than this? We're gonna be high scoring, but also like we're gonna spend most of the time in the defensive zone. Like like we're gonna be an offensive juggernaut that never has the puck,
so
which is what they're now.
So what you're suggesting is they turn into this year's Ottawa Senators, because Ottawa Senators had terrible defense, but they were fun because of their offense. With
less injured goaltending, they might have made the playoffs. Like, let's not forget that if their goaltending had not choose Matt Murray, and then had literally every goaltender behind him get hurt at some point or another, to the point where they almost had to play Artem Anisimov in net.
Mean, it sucks too that they had Joey Decord show up and like he actually looked pretty legit, and
then they got hurt. Yeah,
then he got hurt.
Yep, that's what happened.
That's the way it goes.
Like I say it all the time that I think the Canucks should be playing a much more fun brand of hockey than they are based on the way that what they're good at. But they have a group that they have a management team that does not want them to play that way. And so I think in a way they're almost stifling their creativity a little bit. But you are right. It would be devastating to that blue line, and that blue line is not looking good. So at the end of the day, you're probably true. I think
we were saying this in the last episode when we were talking about Schmidt. We're like, if you take out Schmidt, you have one legitimate NHL defenseman, and then Tyler Myers, who the Canucks brass think is a legitimate NHL defenseman, but not an actual defenseman.
And you might have Travis Hamonic, who is a good NHL third liner. Like he's a third pairing. Like he's a good depth guy, but that's it.
On a good team, he is your depth defenseman. He is your Andy Green on a good team.
Yes, exactly. He is the last piece to your cup championship. He's a Luke Shen. He's a Luke Shen type guy. But he's not going to move the needle for you in terms of the postseason. And again, I will remind you that Anaheim was terrible. San Jose is completely rebuilding. Like both those teams are blowing it up. The Kings are not there yet. They're getting better, but they're not there yet.
Arvidsson helps.
Expansion Seattle, and that's it. And then it's the Knights, it's the Flames, who are not that good. It's the Oilers, who only have 2 scores, and then the Canucks. That's it. It's really not that hard. It is going to be easier for them to make the playoffs in the Pacific than it was in the than it was in the Canadian. Like
I view it like it's going to be a clear cut Vegas number 1.
Yes,
and then
that's sold.
Edmonton will always be a great regular season team so long as they have Connor McDavid and okay goaltending. If they even sign like a league average okay starter, they're going to be a fine regular season team and probably finish second or third in the division. I think Calgary underachieved super hard. There's something really fucking wrong with that locker room, and that's why they sucked. But
I think they're as good as they project to be. I don't think they're as good as people think they are.
I think they can
completely overrated.
They can probably flip Gaudreau and make a lot out of that. Personally.
For 100%. Gaudreau has way higher stock than he should.
Because there's been rumors for years now that he wants out. Right, if they flip him, they're going to come out better.
Monahan's probably got to go. Like
they got to do something to shake up the core. But just like kind of like how this year when we did our season predictions, we're like, okay, Toronto's going to be number 1, Habs are probably going to be number 2, and then
the rest is a crapshoot.
for this next season, I think Seattle's going to be a good team out of the get-go because
they'll be okay.
The cap situations of most teams means that really good players are going to be exposed, like just because of the way that teams are kind of hampering themselves.
Yeah.
And then that middle chunk, though, where you have Seattle, Calgary, Vancouver, and maybe LA, that 4 chunk who are going to be battling for third and fourth in the division.
Third in the
That's
wild
where
card.
you're like, I mean, being better than Ottawa and 2 other teams is a pretty easy thing to do if you're the Canucks this past season, but they couldn't do it. Yeah. Asking them to be better than 3 other teams who are on track to improve by next year and aren't nearly as cap strapped as the Canucks is a big ask. I just keep looking at the Canucks defense. It can't get better than it was this year. And this year it was horrible. Mm-hmm. They don't have the money. That's the issue. And so like when you hear that Nate Schmidt might want out because he just didn't like, it wasn't a good fit. And it's true. You can't have him playing shutdown minutes with Edler. And what are the 2 rumors coming out of the Canucks right now? They want to re-sign Edler and try to make it work with Schmidt. It's a recipe for disaster where you're just spinning the wheels, which that's a topic for another episode where it's like,
I mean, we technically already had this conversation.
They should. And in theory, the Canucks should be spinning their wheels this year and just bringing back the same thing at like no long-term deals and just kind of call next season a wash because they need to clear their books for when Besser needs his extension, when Horvat needs an extension. You need the cap space. And so honestly, you don't run into a situation where Horvat sees a bunch of UFAs walk and Horvat's like, I'm going to pull a Tarasenko now and be like, fuck this. I'm not sticking around for another rebuild. I'm done losing.
And frankly, you might get even like a slightly bit better because you're going to have Elias Pettersson back and probably not playing on just the worst luck of his entire career.
Hitting the most posts in the NHL. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like you might just improve on that alone. You might win like 2 or 3 more games based on that, just doing that. Yeah. And rather than trying to spend big bucks to try and get back into playoff contention.
Well, speaking of spending big bucks, this is the other rumor that came out.
Canucks segment.
The other player that they still have their eyes on, even though the last time they had their eyes on him, it pissed off the entire locker room and blew up their offseason.
Yeah, completely cost them much better players. Oliver Ekman-Larsson again.
Back in their crosshairs, which is, I mean, we just spent the last 25 minutes basically going in about how they don't have cap space to really improve. They need to be really efficient with their money to try and at least like maintain what it was last year, which was not great, but at least they weren't committing to the next, 10 years with awful contracts. Oliver Ekman-Larsson turns 30 in 10 days, and all defensive metrics show that he is on a sharp decline in Arizona.
He's on a sharp decline.
$8 million was
entering year 3 of an 8-year contract where he is making $8.25 million. Ooh, excuse me, per season. I'm just gonna. And you know what else? He's a left defenseman. You already have left defenseman. Don't get it. You do not need another one.
Yeah.
Like
I long for the days of Oscar Fantenberg.
Yes, please. I will take Oscar Fantenberg right now if it prevents me from having to talk about Oliver Ekman-Larsson again. I almost didn't want to even give this piece of information from Irfan Ghaffar. I think he said it on 650 this morning.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to necessarily give it the time of day because I don't want to believe it's real, and I don't want to talk it into existence because this is the dumbest possible thing you could be thinking right now if you're management. Like,
really?
In what universe? Like, again, like Jim Benning made already what was a very silly quote about how we need to get better at, like, we need to get, what was it? Bigger and
stronger and better defensively.
Better defensively, and I think he said something about more depth scoring, like puck carriers, or something about puck carriers.
He said we have enough. We We have Schmidt, we have Hughes, and we have Rathbone. So we're good on puck moving defensemen. We need to get bigger, stronger, and more better at preventing scoring chances. And it's just like,
in what universe does Oliver Ekman-Larsson fit that bill? I'm going to tell you right now, it's none of them. He is not that. That is not what his skill is. This is just Tyler Myers again. This is just Swedish Tyler Myers, because he's tall. He likes to put the puck in the net, but because he's tall, that means he's good at defense. He's a good defensive defenseman because he's tall. That's all they're looking at. It's the dumbest possible thing would be for them to go out and try and sign this guy. I don't care if the Coyotes came up to the Canucks tomorrow and said, we will give you Oliver Ekman-Larsson for 50% retained salary for a 7th round pick. I'm like, no, get that out of
all
here.
Good, man.
Absolutely not, because he doesn't fit. He fits absolutely nothing you need, and he's declining, and he's on a decline. Like, there is no reason, absolutely zero, that they need Oliver Ekman-Larsson on this team for any reason. I don't even want to think about this. I don't even know why I don't know why they're doing this again. There's no reason. There's no reason to do this. Like, the last time, they didn't even have Nate Schmidt when they were having this conversation. Now they have him, and you want to add OEL to that mix again? Like, no. I'm going to walk to Vancouver. I'm going to walk all the way to Vancouver from here. If this becomes a bigger thing, I'm going to walk all the way to Vancouver. I'm going to walk up to the arena. I'm going to knock on the door, and I'm just going to say no to the first person who opens it. No, and they will know what I'm talking about. They will know what that is, what the meaning behind that no is.
Okay.
And no EL. No EL. That's the
no
hashtag.
Indeed.
No Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I tried too hard.
So I was thinking about this earlier, right? So the Canucks, I was thinking about this earlier, and I had to double check, and I just did. The Canucks didn't re-sign Chris Tanev because they were afraid of what they were going to have to pay him, right? And the decline. Flame, they were worried about the decline. They signed the Flames signed him to a 4-year, $20 million contract, $4.5 million cap hit, and
that turned out way better than any of us expected.
And like, you know what? He was like one of their best players, and honestly, like, all defensive metrics show that Tanev was like one of the best players in the league for defensive results, which is unsurprising. That's been his career.
Which is unsurprising, but also because it seemed like it was starting to weigh on him a little bit.
The concern was there, like sure.
And and even still to this day, I don't hate the logic behind not signing him. It didn't work. It ended up backfiring.
This is what I'm getting to.
But I don't hate the logic behind that necessarily.
Yeah. I understand the logic, but what I don't understand is they were then offered a player at a much higher cap hit for longer in Nate Schmidt, who is 1 year younger. And they hoped 1 year. That's it. And they were like, yeah, sure. This is much better than not upsetting the locker room status quo, the established chemistry between Tanev and Hughes. We're going to piss off our young star right away. We didn't even get into this. I just remembered this is part of the news thing. Someone had said that Quinn Hughes is looking for a contract that will take him immediately to UFA, which either means he doesn't have faith in the management group to not screw it up, or he's just looking to cash out as much as possible. But either way, if he's looking for his next contract to take him right to UFA, that means that is bad for the Canucks.
Yep.
Very bad.
You cannot let that happen under any circumstance. There's no reason to let that happen. Yeah. You have to hold the feet to the fire on that one and refuse to give that up. You have to keep it under 4 or lower. And as we've said, as I have said this so many times on Twitter, and again, I don't want to keep bringing it up. This is why we're getting the Toffoli jar when we go in studio. We're gonna have the Toffoli jar on the set that I'm working on and design and thinking about. If the Canucks manage their cap better, you can have Schmidt. You can have Schmidt, you can have Tanev, you can have Stetcher, you can have everybody. If you just manage your cap better, you can have them all and not even have to worry about it. Like it wouldn't be a question of who over who. Like
instead
you wouldn't
of
have to be
prioritizing veterans and depth and size and like that. This is the scary. I mean, I don't want to get into circles because we always talk about this shit. But in the postseason availability, when he's like, we want better veterans who can score. And like your jaw drops because you're like, oh my God, this management group has learned absolutely nothing.
On one hand, sure, like everybody, but you and everybody else wants that. Who are you actually going to be thinking about getting is the real question. Do you just mean Jay Beagle too, or do you mean actually going out to find a hidden gem? Do you find the hidden gems here?
That's not really their MO. It's signing.
You know what? It's Blake Coleman. They're going to go out and give Blake Coleman way too much money.
Blake Coleman only makes $1.9 million.
Oh, and he's going to get
criminal.
And he's going to get a huge raise, and deservedly so. But it's going to be more. But the Canucks are the kind of team that would. Yeah, the Canucks are the kind of team that would think that that's going to make a huge difference for them, even though it isn't, because that's not what he's not a. He's a great complementary piece for an already good team. He is not I'm going to completely revolutionize your entire bottom six guy. That's just not how it works.
As Thomas Strantz puts it all the time on the Vancast, you want to find your Blake Colemans before they are on the UFA Blake Coleman contract. You need to get those players before they get paid instead of being the ones who pay.
Yes, it is the Mark Donk Buzz Flibbin situation. Find the random obscure guys every time that take you over the top. Find your Ross Colton. Guy literally scored a cup-winning goal today.
Yes, he won Tampa a cup today, and he's like a 4th-round pick from 2016 who grinded his way through the NCAA and then the AHL to be where he is at today. That's what the Canucks need to do. They don't need to be overpaying Blake Coleman, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Vladimir Tarasenko. They can't afford any of them.
No.
On that note, this is probably a good time to wrap it up. Thank you.
We've been at this for quite a while.
It's like 48 degrees inside.
You know where you know what? You know where the best the best place to find those draft picks are, Cody? It's in the draft, which is coming up. Like the best place to find your Ross Colton is in the draft, which is coming up. And even though this is the end of the hockey and the actual hockey going on, we've still got, I believe 9 more episodes before we call it a season, before our official season ends for the year.
Yeah, July is very busy with the off-season shenanigans, which will be exciting. Which will be fun.
We'll have lots to talk about, but also a few episodes where we're going to probably have to go find some people to bring in to chat with us.
I'll have to rely on some of my contacts in the hockey writing world. Ask Roxy Fever to do a favor. See what
Cody, I'm already on the show. You can't just text me. That's I don't think you can do that. You got to find someone new.
What's the NHL? What's the Chell team you're part of? The
Vladimir Croutons.
You need to call in some favors from the Croutons to get them on the show.
I haven't played with them in a while because I'm not near my PS4. But
oh my goodness.
Maybe. But I have demanded a trade. But there's still lots of CreaseCast still to go before we go on our summer vacation. So
cheers everybody. Thanks for listening. As always, you can find us on Apple, Spotify. I don't know. I'm reading the banner here: YouTube, Anchor, Google Podcast, TuneIn, Amazon, Stitcher, Overcast, Podcast Addict, Pocket Cast. I've never heard of that one.
There's probably more in there that
there's probably more.
I might narrow it down, but
there's a bunch of radio platforms that also have access to podcasts that I've never heard of before. But anyway,
follow us. I'm working on a couple more. I'm working on a couple secret ones that might be out for next season. Yeah, maybe.
Leave us a review. We appreciate those. Give us 5 stars. Give us 6 if you can. That's cool too.
And also give us $5 a month for bonus content, which we're
we have a Patreon. That in theory we should be working on.
Speak for yourself, buddy. I'm working on some stuff for it. How dare you?
It's true. You're always working on it. I have a thing planned that is gonna make you laugh really hard in like a couple weeks if my buddy sticks to his promise. But
I'm very
leave it
interested
at
to know
that.
what's going on.
It's very spicy. It would be
For the
very
Patreon?
funny.
This is for the Patreon?
This is for the Patreon.
Okay, then you should definitely subscribe. $5 a month.
Yes, definitely subscribe.
It's a good deal.
Lachlan puts on a shit ton of great articles on there too. They're always really good to read. Exclusive access there. We appreciate the support too. It goes towards buying Lachlan all the cold brew that he can get, and that's the only reason he survives in California right now.
I would. That makes it sound like I'm just like embezzling and taking it for like personal groceries.
Well, that's what Patreon money's basically for.
I like to think we're safe. Well, I mean, we have it sitting. It's waiting to be used on like on a new
Drugs.
on like
Hockey
sure. We're
tickets.
on podcast studio equipment. That's what it's hopefully going to go to.
What a waste of money.
This is why I haven't
This is the
given him
best
the
setup
password
I've
yet.
ever seen in my life.
This is why I haven't given him the password yet.
This is true. You guys can follow me at Cody Sievertson on Twitter or my website, cometsharvest.com. I just dropped my absolute
huge article,
massive, monstrous article
incredible.
reviewing the entire Utica Comets season, including all the Canucks players and prospects that suited up for them, all my thoughts and perspective and all that crap. Lachlan, where can they find you and your work?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok sometimes at Luck in the Crease. And you can also find my writing at luckinthecrease.com. I do writing from time to time. I should have a couple things coming out before the official, before the season really officially ends. So yeah, keep on a lookout for that as well.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate the support. We'll catch you on our next episode when we talk about buyout season, bitch.
Bye,
Later.
Bye, guys.